Good evening and welcome to PSR TV. Tonight, round number 10 of the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. My name is Daryl Morley. Alongside me is Tim Terry, and we are pleased to bring you the racing action from Michigan International Speedway. Tonight, Tim, Michigan welcomes these drivers to the, well, let's just say, difficult high banks of Michigan International Speedway.
And you hit the nail on the head, Daryl. These cars, this racetrack, we've talked to some of the drivers, and they seem to think this car's a little bit hard to handle, hard to get a hold of at this Michigan International Speedway. It might very well be the driver who can get a handle on their race car the quickest over this 100-lap race will win this event here this evening. Steve Sheehan, we saw 2 weeks ago, won at Pocono, going to start on the pole here. He might be able to get the upper hand on this first restart, but there's a lot of guys throughout this 43-car field that could very well win this thing tonight.
What about a guy who's been resurgent, to say the least, a guy like Richard Towler, who on some newer equipment just a few days ago had a very strong run going before that newer equipment gave out on him. We're talking about the roadside, of course. Had a very strong run going, and then that equipment gave out on him. Last we heard, he was back on the older computer equipment here for tonight's event. Didn't want to take any chances. He wants to maintain that top 25 points.
We have a lot of different stories throughout this field. Patrick Fogel last night in the NASCAR iRacing Class C Series truck race at Bristol, and you know how Bristol can be a handful, Daryl, with the high banks and the short configuration. Well, Patrick Fogel took a hit to his license. He's been racing pretty much the whole 24 hours to try to get his rating up so he can run here this evening. Patrick just got it back a matter of about 2 hours ago, and now Fogel in the field. He's going to start about mid-pack. I don't know if that's really where you want to start here at Michigan, but the important thing is, Daryl, he's here.
Yeah, I don't think he's that concerned with starting mid-pack. I think he's mostly concerned with starting, and that's the most important thing for Patrick Fogel, and it took a lot of work for Fogel to get to start this race. So congratulations to Patrick Fogel to be able to start this race here tonight. Your top 10 in points look a little something like this. Ray Alfala comes in as the unofficial points leader. Thomas Hazard comes in second. Brad Wright is third. Fourth is Tyler Hudson. Fifth is Brian Schoenberg. Sixth belongs to John Gorlinski. Seventh is Josh Parker. Eighth is Brad Davies. Ninth is Pedro Mojica. And rounding out your top 10 is Josh Berry. A very impressive top 10 in points. The two drivers that have been most impressive throughout the course of this season have been Ray Alfala and Thomas Hazard, and they have a substantial lead over Brad Wright. But don't count out Brad Wright quite yet. And as a matter of fact, don't count out anyone quite yet. We are only now starting the second half of this season.
And Daryl, you look back at drivers that are running 11th through 20th right now. You have drivers that are comfortable being at this point. They don't want to fall into the top 25 in points. You got guys like Chris Main, Steve Sheehan, last week's winner, 2 weeks ago's winner, Thomas Lewandowski, John Costa having an awesome season so far, as is Charles Cosper, Jesse Atchison, Connor McKenzie also up there in the top 20. Those drivers are feeling good at the halfway point in this season. We just passed that with the last race that we had. So now it's the second half of this season, and now they're looking forward to either move themselves up or keep themselves in the top 25 in the standings.
We will have the opportunity through different portions of tonight's broadcast to get a little bit of expertise and some information from Kevin King, the California Kid, one of the better-known sim racers throughout the universe here. And tonight we'll have the opportunity to do that, as we have on other nights with Web Racing Network. And Kevin King, nice to welcome you to PSR TV. Welcome, buddy.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Thanks for having me.
Kevin, I know that you've done a lot of work with some of these drivers, and you've also worked on a setup to sort of get yourself ready, because you're one of the drivers that is working at potentially qualifying in for future runs with the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. What are these drivers looking at as far as unique challenges here tonight with Michigan International Speedway in this COT car?
It's going to be really fast. The thing about this track is that there's really a few places you can run You're not going to see too many people on the bottom. It's really, really loose down there. You're going to see some guys in the middle. And it's basically going to be how hard can you drive it into the turn and how fast can you get back on the gas. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see who's going to be able to do that, especially with the aero. But loose is definitely fast at this track today.
Tim, I think one of the terms we're going to hear tonight is driving it in firewall deep, and I think that's going to be one of the keys. How deep can you drive it in?
That's definitely the way it's going to be, Daryl. These drivers are going to have to drive it in hard and make sure that it sticks and everybody around them sticks the same way. It's going to be an interesting 100 laps.
Drivers being called to the grid, and we're just about set to let you know who will start where once they are in their cars and they are set to go racing here at Michigan International Speedway. And this should be a very interesting race, to say the very least, as these racers know that they have an extremely difficult task ahead of them. This could be one of those races that makes or breaks your season. Now, granted, you do have 2 throwaways, so some of these drivers looking at this race as, well, maybe this will be one of my throwaways. But I spoke with Brian Schoenberg earlier on, and he told me, you know what? You don't want to do that. The last thing you want to do is look at a race this early in the season as a throwaway. You wait until the end of the season, pick your throwaways then. The last thing you do is pick your throwaways early in the season. Pick them later on. Don't pick them before the race happens, Tim.
Indeed you do not, as these drivers are now on the grid. I believe, Daryl, we are getting ready to introduce to the fans the 43 drivers that are getting ready to roll off.
43 racers ready to do battle. Steve Sheehan, the number 6, will start on the pole. Outside of row number 1, the defending champion, the 08, in some new colors, it's Richard Towler.
On the inside, it's number 54 of Derek Wood. To the outside, number 21, he runs fast here, John Gorlinski.
Bad Brad Davies, the number 11 machine. I had to steal that one, sorry. The number 11 will start in 5th, and outside of him, Brad Wright, the Brad and Brad row, in row number 3.
Starting 7th to 16, and Thomas Lewandowski, and to the outside, it's JP Josh Parker going to start in 8th.
Nolan Scott, the 06, will start in 9th, and starting 10th, the number 10 of Connor McKenzie.
We got Josh Berry starting on the inside of row number 6, and to the outside, 55, Brian Schoenberg.
Row number 7 on the inside, we find the number 2 of Ray Alfala, and on the outside, the 03 of Charles Cosper.
Your next row is made up of the 02 of Jeremy Allen, and to the outside, it's the number 9 of Thomas Hazard.
Richie Davidowitz will start inside of row number 9 and outside row number 9, starting 18th, the number 91 of Byron Daly.
Next up is the 18 of Daniel Pope II, and to his outside, 44, Darren Stevens.
Florian Goddard will start in the 21st position in the number 4, and outside of him, the number 38 of Chris Main.
Look at these two to come to the front of this field when we get going. Patrick Fogel, 51-01, Tyler Hudson.
Matthew Moose inside of row number 13, and outside of him is Joshua Lawton.
Next up, Jordan Erickson, 85, Robert Hall, number 30.
Jean Costa inside the following row. Outside of him is Justin Lowry.
Josh Connors, 15, Stephen Gilbert in the number 3, starting 32nd.
Followed by Jamison Spies in the number 97 and the 45 of John Prather. We'll get to the rest of the field in just a bit. For now, it's about time to go green flag racing here at Michigan.
Starts were key last week. Darrell, the 6 of Steve Sheehan, proves it once again as these drivers fan out the front straightaway. Down into corner number 1 they go, and Sheehan going to have the lead.
Sheehan with the advantage. It looks like it's going to be Towler dropping in line behind Sheehan as your top 2. Break away just a little bit from the rest of this pack as they spread out 2 and almost 3 wide. As now, here we go. Battle for the top spot. Towler looks to the inside of Sheehan.
Here comes the 08 on the inside of the number 6, looking to make it stick. We talked about these drivers driving it in hard. Richard Towler does that. He's rewarded with the lead. Lap number 1 goes to the 08.
Lap number 1 led by the 08 of Richard Towler. Steve Sheehan now battling back on the inside. Sheehan will retake that top spot in turn number 1. Sheehan to the point. Here comes John Gorlinski. Gorlinski looking down to the inside of the 08 of Richard Towler now. Gorlinski would like to take second. Towler able to close the door.
And as these guys continue to battle for the lead, it closes in the likes of Gorlinski. It closes in Derek Wood. It closes in those guys behind them. So they don't want to do a whole lot of this side-by-side battling early because it's going to close in the rest of this field. Lap number 2 will come to a close this time, and it's number 6 of Sheehan leading the way.
Sheehan leads lap number 2. Towler sits in second. John Gorlinski sits in third. Fourth is Derek Wood, and fifth is Brad Wright. That's your top 5 as they cross the stripe, completing lap number 2. Lap number 3 now up on the board here at Michigan International Speedway.
As you look back to Derek Wood from John Gorlinski, you see a little bit of a separation there behind that Derek Wood race car to Brad Wright, so it looks like your top 4 starting to inch away just a little bit. They are single file throughout your top 5. Josh Parker now looking over the 48 back there of Brad Wright for position.
And Josh Parker had a wiggle out of turn number 2 last time by, as that slowed Parker's move just a little bit. And you've got to wonder how that kind of messes with the driver's mind. They've been dealing with this track for the last 2 weeks. They know what to expect, but they also know that this track will throw the unexpected at them. And they've kind of learned to expect, I guess, the unexpected to a certain extent, Tim.
And as these drivers adapt to this racetrack, the 10 of Connor McKenzie, the 02 Jeremy Allen, the 55 of Brian Schoenberg. Schoenberg has been driving this car for the last 2 weeks, as you mentioned, Daryl, and he has been said that it's a handful as he loses a position to Thomas Hazard in the number 9. Hazard coming to the front.
Schoenberg was absolutely livid in practice earlier on today, beside himself, could not get a handle on the car, and he was trying to turn the hottest laps that he could turn. He was trying to get some qualifying in. As you see Schoenberg wiggle, dive down to the inside, almost 3 wide as they enter turn number 3. Schoenberg making it stick on the inside somehow, some way. Brian Schoenberg making it work here at Michigan.
I'm not quite sure how he saved that car after that bobble down the back straightaway, Darryl, but somehow he maintains control of the race car, but he might lose one position here to Richie Davidowitz. Here comes the 25 on the back of the 55, looking for position number 14, the hot lap radio, 25 to the inside.
Davidowitz down to the inside of the number 55 of Brian Schoenberg, and Davidowitz will have to drop back in line. Schoenberg perfect off from turn number 2.
Down into corner number 3, Schoenberg up near the safer barrier, going into the corner about midway through as you ride on board with Brian Schoenberg, looking up at Thomas Hazard in the number 9, looking to catch him off corner number 4. They come down the front straightaway. 6 laps are complete.
The 18 of Daniel Pope II made a move to the high side of the number 25 of Richie Davidowitz, and I think Davidowitz kind of saw him coming and said, you want to move to the high side, I'm going to let you go. Way too early to be battling you right now. And the last thing I think Davidowitz wanted to have happen was to get stuck down to the inside going into turn number 1 here at Michigan, and I think Pope is going to put that in his memory banks for later on.
You mentioned a long race, Darryl. It's 100 laps. We currently work lap number 8 right now. This really isn't the time to do your side-by-side 3-wide battling. Pick up your positions when you can and put yourself up in front as we have a battle for third between John Gorlinski and Derek Wood. Derek Wood looking to the inside, nothing doing at a corner number 2.
Wood drops back just a little bit as he'll try to reassess the situation, and grab whatever he can and try to track back to John Gorlinski. And you mentioned it, or we mentioned earlier on before we went on the air, rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. And a lot of times this racetrack comes down to rhythm, and it also comes down to making sure you can keep yourself moving, keep that momentum going. And if you try to make that move and it doesn't quite work out, you get a little bit loose out of the corner, you break that momentum, it's going to take you a lap or 2 to get that momentum going again.
And speaking about rhythm, looks like Brian Schoenberg may have slapped the wall off corner number 2. He's going to lose at least one more position. I believe he may have been bet by Thomas Hazard there for a moment. But we talked about 2 weeks ago, Darryl, with focus. At Pocono, you have to hit your marks in 3 different corners. Here, it's not 3 different corners, it's 2 different sides of the racetrack. You still have to keep your focus and not lose sight of the light at the end of the tunnel. You got to get to lap 100 in order to win this race.
But I'm sure these drivers would tell you the huge difference between turn 2 and turn number 4, the exits of these cornering complexes. I guess you would call them cornering complexes. I would. About as complex as I'd like to try to race these cars around. The exits of these corners, so different. The exit of turn number 4, much more wide, much more sweeping, as Schoenberg brushes the wall. Again, Brian Schoenberg struggling. We told you the struggles that Schoenberg was having, and I wouldn't guess that they're any different than the struggles that a lot of these drivers were having. And Schoenberg's struggles just right now showing up on screen. Everybody else struggling the same way that Brian Schoenberg is.
As you ride in car with Brian Schoenberg, right behind him now is Daniel Pope II. There's a battle right behind them for position. I believe that might be Davidowitz on the inside line. Byron Daly makes a position up in the 91, as does Patrick Vogel in the 51. Vogel coming to the front of this field, currently scored in 16th position. So there's a lot of guys who are struggling 11 laps into this race, and they're starting to fall back. Then you have guys like Byron Daly and Patrick Vogel who are pushing to the front.
Back up towards the front, the 54 of Derek Wood once again trying to build that momentum and build that run on the number 21 of John Gorlinski. Again, these two drivers very well versed in racing with one another. They know each other quite well. Do John Gorlinski and Derek Wood, as Wood trying to build that run, trying to build that momentum and work his way past John Gorlinski.
And we should mention last season, Derek Wood did win the second time they went to Michigan. As Derek Wood makes the move now, he's going to push up the track a little bit. Gorlinski going to have the run off the outside line. Gorlinski going to maintain the position, and a little wiggle from Derek Wood at a corner number 2.
Brad Wright catches up to this battle, but it looks like we're going to see a yellow flag on the racetrack. Caution flag flies. The 44 car of Darren Stevens around. Darren Stevens goes around, yellow flag flies, and that'll slow us down. And it doesn't look like Darren Stevens might have been the first one to go around. It might have been the 40 of Lawton to go around.
And it might have been a little more than that, Daryl. It looks like Jordan Erickson is involved in this wreck as well. It looks like coming off of corner number 2, Erickson and Lawton make a little contact. And Erickson, he had that car saved about 3 times, but he gets into Lawton again, and Lawton goes for a wild ride.
Also tough for, I do believe, we'll double check, but the 97 of Jamison Spieth heavily involved in that one as well. Jamison Spieth looks like he might be done in this one.
And that's a tough break for him. And some of those drivers that we mentioned running about mid-pack, they are looking to pick up points. They need to get up in the top 25 in the standings to qualify for next season's NASCAR iRacing Series World Championship. You can't have any more of those drop races. You can't afford to have any more bad races at this point if you're the likes of Darren Stevens and those guys back around that 25th place bubble.
Brad Davies having some difficulties on pit road, so Brad Davies going to lose some ground here as a result of this one, and Tim, that's going to put him deep in the field.
This is huge, Daryl. Over a dozen positions Brad Davies is going to lose. He came in just knocking on the door of the top 5, and now he's more than likely going to be outside the top 15, at least, as he's running back here with Byron Daly and a couple of other drivers back here. So that's tough for Brad Davies.
So the racetrack proving that it's not the only difficult thing here at Michigan International. Pit road also showing that it's also just as difficult to navigate, as Davies also only sporting 2 fresh tires rather than a full set of 4 fresh tires. So Steve Sheehan continues to lead under the yellow flag. Richard Towler sits in second spot. John Gorlinski was third. We'll see how the shakeup takes place. I believe that's going to put Brad Wright in third, and fourth will be the number 21 of John Gorlinski. Fifth will, I do believe, wind up going to Josh Parker.
And the lights are out atop the pace car, looking back here to see where Brad Davies will cycle through. I believe it's going to be 15th place for Brad Davies. Kevin, you've seen the first 17 laps of this race. What do you think so far, and what do you think of the strategy of Brad Davies after taking the 2 tires?
You know, it's been pretty typical. A lot of the faster guys that I've seen throughout the week are up front. Brad, unfortunately, had that situation in pit road where he put himself in a position where he had to take 2 tires just so he wouldn't lose probably another 10 spots. He's doing what he can right now to salvage a good finish. This is where it starts. He has to start coming back through the field with this run here. So he's hoping for a shorter run where his 2 tires don't affect him. But he's definitely going to be hanging on here for a little while.
Pace car is off. We're getting set for the return to green flag racing. Steve Sheehan is your race leader. Here we go. Green flag flies. We are back underway.
Look at Brad Wright pushed to second place in that number 48. Richard Towler up to third now, and here comes Josh Parker in the 81 as they are 3 wide just behind Parker. Derek Wood is digging in corner number 2.
Oh, trouble off from turn number 2, the 06 of Nolan Scott around and around in front of a large portion of this field, and everybody trying to miss the 06 of Nolan Scott.
And he's going to take Connor McKenzie along with him in the number 10, and Connor was pretty much by that wreck, and Nolan Scott at the last minute just makes a little contact as he will grab a gear and get going again in the TC's custom die-cast number 10.
And it looked like Nolan Scott may have had just a wee bit of help from Brian Schoenberg getting a little bit loose on the inside line, and Schoenberg may have gotten into or had a little bit of contact with the 06 of Nolan Scott, and that's a tough turn of events right there for Nolan Scott. Schoenberg able to save it. Nolan Scott not quite so fortunate.
These guys will pull back up behind the pace car, so the caution flag will be out for the second time here on lap number 19. And Brad Wright just pretty much pushed Steve Sheehan on that start to get out in front of the field. Wright will be rewarded with the second place position when we go green flag racing once again. The outside line, at least for the first 2 restarts, Darrell, hasn't been the place to be.
Well, as these drivers let everything kind of sink in, we will do the same. Steve Sheehan is your race leader. 20 laps complete here, or 19 laps complete, working lap number 20 at Michigan International Speedway. You're watching round number 10 of the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship right here on PSR TV. Back in a moment.
iRacing.com is the premier online racing simulation featuring head-to-head competition on your PC. Race from your home PC, competing on the world's best real-world cars and tracks. Thousands of race fans and scores of pro racers like Dale Jr. and Justin Wilson are already racing at iRacing. Experience the thrill of victory yourself and go racing today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back here on PSR TV as we get set for the restart. Steve Sheehan is your race leader. Pace lights still on here, Tim, and these drivers, they know that they've got their work cut out for them. They've seen a couple early yellows, but still a fifth of this race done, 20 laps complete, 21 laps up on the board. Pace lights should go out next time by, and these drivers know it's just about time to punch the clock and get back to work. What do you think's going through their minds?
We've seen a fairly long green flag run at the start of this race, Daryl, so I believe we can see another fairly long stretch of green flag running, and this is where I'm going to bring in Kevin King. Kevin, how greasy is this racetrack on cold tires? Is it really that difficult for some of these guys to, they want to go fast, they want to get going, but they know that the tires are cold and they have to baby it for a couple of laps?
Yeah, the track is pretty slick in itself, and you have to be really careful, especially on the restarts in the first couple laps, to get all you can going around the first couple laps, trying to get as much as you can. And after that, provided you have some space, you can kind of move your car around. The higher you go, the more grip you're going to have, and likewise, the lower you go, the less grip you're going to have. So passing someone late in a run is going to be really tricky. You're going to really hope that you're going to get the run off the turn versus going in. Because if you get going in and you're side by side, it's going to be pretty sketchy. So we'll see who has the grip and who has the best line around here. It should be pretty interesting.
Should be interesting to say the least. Thank you so much, Kevin, and looking forward to getting some more of your insight as this race continues on. And that's Kevin King, the California kid. Watch for him as Kevin, the progress continues towards getting you into this series yourself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. We have to go through the Pro Series first, but we'll go what we can, go as hard as we can, get up there, and hopefully get in the series with the rest of these great racers next time.
One of the most difficult series to qualify in the entire world of sim racing, and a lot of drivers have said, you know what, it's a badge of honor just to race once in this series, and I'll take their word for it. I don't think I could ever qualify to race with these drivers, but hey, you never know. I've been working my way up through the ranks, and next upgrade season or next license upgrade, I might be able to get my C-Class license, so woohoo for me. Hooray. Wave the flag. Speaking of waving the flag, it's just about time to wave that green flag. Steve Sheehan now in control of this field. Sheehan making him wait. Making him wait. Green flag flies. We are underway. Sheehan made him wait on that start, Tim.
And they are going to fan out down the front straightaway, Darrell. Here comes John Gorlinski in the number 21. Gorlinski looking to pick up a few spots. He's up to the door of Towler. He falls back to Parker, and he falls back on the high side as we're going side by side for the lead. Look at Brad Wright on the outside.
Brad Wright picks up the top spot on the high side as the number 9 goes 3 wide. The 72 of Josh Berry up in the outside wall, and he caught a good piece of it. Josh Berry will lose several spots.
And continues to fall back. Tough break for him as is up on the high side there.
Four wide, now some contact as the number 33 of Brian Blackford tried to dive down to the inside. There was already a car down there as we've got a battle for the top spot. Steve Sheehan trying to regain that number 1 position. Sheehan trying to get down to the inside of Brad Wright. Here comes Richard Towler trying to offer up any help to Steve Sheehan that he can.
And Sheehan had to back out. It's going to open the door for Towler. It's going to open the door for Josh Parker as well. Enter the 81 in this battle for the lead in 4th place as he's drafted up to the back of the 08 of Richard Towler. Now the 6 of Steve Sheehan. He has to regroup and try to get that pass done once again on Brad Wright.
Some spectacular racing taking place as the battle for 5th starts up now. Derek Wood finds himself battling with John Gorlinski, some old friends and some great rivals on the racetrack. Wood and Gorlinski, and sometimes good friends make great rivals, Tim.
Indeed they do, and just right in front of them, Brad Wright nearly bought the farm off corner number 2, nearly lost control of that race car as here comes the 6 now with Steve Sheehan for the lead. Down on the inside, the number 6, the TaxSlayer.com Chevrolet Impala has it going into 1. The 48 going to try to get that awesome run off the outside.
Oh, wouldn't Sheehan love to win here at Michigan International Speedway and have the opportunity to remind everybody about TaxSlayer.com. Here comes Richard Towler. Towler down to the inside.
Towler going to pick up the position, slide up on the outside. 48 now going to be in 3rd as the 81 in 4th.
Trouble here in the front of the pack. Ray Alfala involved in it. The 21 involved in it. John Gorlinski. And that'll bring out the yellow flag. And Gorlinski heavily involved. The 2 also heavily involved in this one. And we believe it may have started with the 21 and the 54. May have gotten together, as we mentioned, good friends and good rivals.
Back there as well, we have Schoenberg, Thomas Hazard involved in this one as well. Jeremy Allen, we mentioned the 02. There's at least a half dozen cars involved in this wreck, and when something happens at a high-speed track like this, Darrell, it usually happens big.
And this one did happen pretty darn big. And speaking of big, while the crews go to working on cleaning up whatever mess there is out there as far as these cars are concerned, speaking of big, we have the big opportunity to talk to the big man on campus, the big man in charge, Tony Gardner, president of iRacing. Welcome back to PSR TV.
Hey, Darrell. Hey, Tim. Glad to be here.
Tony, I know that this is a big 24-hour swing for iRacing. What's going on with iRacing? You got some big stuff coming out here in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, about 2 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to take our member site down, and we're going to release our new nationwide car, the new car. And also, been a lot of fanfare about it, but our new tire model will be on that car. So again, an early preview of that tire model, which will be on just about all the cars, if not all the cars, when we do our our major build at the end of July, early August.
That's 2 o'clock Eastern tomorrow afternoon. That's when that nationwide car comes out with the preview of the new tire model for everybody to kind of test out, and that'll be the most popular car tomorrow, won't it?
Yeah, it really will be. A lot of people, all the alpha guys, and we've had a lot of real-world drivers in the office, and it does make a huge difference. So we're really excited to get that out to everybody. I wouldn't go to the site at 2 o'clock because that's when we're going to go down, take it down to maintenance mode for a little bit. But come on in tomorrow, late tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, and give that thing a shot.
So the site will go down about 2 o'clock, so it'll give us that are on the East Coast some time earlier in the day to still get some runs in, still have some fun early in the day, and then the site goes down about 2 o'clock for some maintenance. It'll come back up, and when it comes back up, we'll all have an update. We'll have a new nationwide car, we'll have the new tire model, and we'll have some goodies to play with.
Absolutely, and a bunch more to follow in late July. Dave Kamer just made a forum post in our general forums. It's a sticky on the top. He's talking about the new tire model and what to expect and how to drive it. So if you remember, definitely go read that post. It's a very interesting forum post that Dave Kamer, our CEO and CTO, just put up a little while ago.
And if you're not a member, well, what are you waiting for? Get over to iRacing.com, get signed up. 1 month signed up, you get 2 months for free. Tony, the new league deal, what's going on with that? That's a very interesting deal going on over at iRacing.com. Very league-friendly is iRacing.
Yeah, it's really been a focus, especially the last 18 months, to keep adding functionality for our leagues. We actually just put up a new league website, public site, a microsite, www.iracing/leagues. So you can also reach it off our public site. But we've got a lot of new league features coming up. In this build coming up, we're going to have heat racing for leagues in our hosted sessions, and we're also working on driver swaps, driver changes, and driver swaps, and endurance racing. That won't be in this build. Hopefully the build after that. But we've got a lot of and that's a big league request. So all that stuff's coming.
Now that league mini site, can you give us a little bit more information about that? What's encapsulated with that league mini site?
Well, it's a public site that's really giving more information. Oh, my phone ringing in the background here, about leagues on iRacing and how they work and how easy they are to use. There's some specials there. You can join for 2 months for the price of one. You can join for a year for half price for $50. If you don't have to be a league guy, but there's some specials there. And there's also a place where you can download. There's some tools to build your own website for your league. So we made it really easy for you to build your own site and start your own league. But there's probably already 150 leagues running in iRacing, so there's already plenty of leagues to run, so to join. So you don't really need to start your own. But if you want to hook up with some friends, it's all there for you and easy to do.
Any upcoming tools to help league owners administer or operate their leagues through iRacing?
Like I said, the big one coming is heat racing, and this next one where you can have tournaments. Your league can have tournaments, and just think about a Friday night short track race where you have runoffs and the winners keep moving on, so you have heats. So that's a big thing. We're also adding some admin functionality, some more admin controls in this next build, hopefully. So, but we're going to keep plugging away. We have a long list, and we're going to keep plugging away on those things that the league administrators are requesting.
Tony, thanks so much for taking some time out of your extremely busy schedule. We know that the phone's ringing off the hook, so thank you so much for taking some time out and spending it here with us on PSR TV. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Daryl and Tim. You guys are doing a great job here on PSR TV. Great job on the broadcast. So I'm going to go watch the rest of the race and enjoy it. Thanks a lot.
There you go. That's the president of iRacing, Tony Gardner, as he gets set to kick back and relax and watch the rest of this race on PSR TV and on iRacing.com, the official home of the NASCAR. iRacing.com Series World Championship, the only online NASCAR sanctioned leagues, are right here at iRacing.com, Tim.
Daryl, differing strategies under this caution flag. Steve Sheehan, Brad Wright, your top two did not pit. They are joined by a couple of rows behind them of drivers. that did not come down on pit road. Your point leader, Ray Alfala, is done from this race. Pace car is in. We're getting ready to drop the hammer once again. The 6 and the 48 sea green. Look at the outside, the 48 waiting to go.
Four wide and almost 5 wide deep in the pack as we get back under green flag conditions, and this could be a short-lived green flag run.
Towler was making it happen on this start. Everybody just trying to find their grip, and we're going to rack them up. Tyler Hudson is around, and there's 2 or 3 cars following him suit.
We are still under green flag conditions as that spin happened off the racing line. They spun out of the racing groove as a result. We stay green flag racing. Steve Sheehan is your race leader.
And Richard Towler now in 4th. Here comes Nolan Scott back there in position number 5. Right underneath him, here comes Derek Wood. Derek Wood is wheeling it as Nolan Scott is up the racetrack.
'16 of Thomas Lewandowski moves past Nolan Scott. Nolan Scott will try to battle back, but it might be a futile battle or an exercise in futility as Lewandowski just had a huge run. Now here comes Brad Davies on the number 66 of Justin Lowry. The number 11 of Brad Davies starting to make some moves.
And here comes the 91 of Byron Daly right behind the 66 of Lowry, now side by side with him, looking to pick up a position and nearly rushed up into the 66 is Josh Parker. A couple of positions up there, Richard Towler going to battle it out.
Josh Parker, the number 81, Richard Towler, the 08. Towler trying to slide up in front of the number 81 of Josh Parker, and Towler will do just that. We'll see how well that sits with Josh Parker. Parker, no choice but to drop back in line. Parker refusing to let anything get under his skin. Josh, very, very calm and relaxed inside that race car. Josh Parker understands that it's still very early in this race. No need to go making any sort of huge moves right now. Josh Parker will swing with the fences later on.
Derek Wood now underneath the number 81 of Josh Parker for position number 4, as it looks like he might pick that up, as here comes Brad Wright on the outside line. Derek Wood trying to take the position away from Brad Wright. Josh Parker going to try to follow through as well as they come down this time. 34 laps are completed.
All of this happening well behind your race leader, Steve Sheehan, as he has really basically dominated the early portions of this race, Tim.
Indeed he has, and as these guys battle 2 and nearly 3 wide behind him, he is walking away from this field. Little slide off corner number 2 for Sheehan, though. Side by side for Wright and Parker as these guys go side by side. It closes in Thomas Lewandowski in the 16.
Parker trying to clear Brad Wright, still not quite clear of Wright just quite yet. What am I, Dr. Seuss? Everything rhymes now tonight. I did it again.
And right behind this battle, here comes Brad Davies in the number 11. Brad Davies is digging. He's going to pass up Thomas Lewandowski, and he's going to try to get the 48 in the same corner. Did you mention earlier a 2-for-1 special, Darryl?
And that's exactly what Davies is trying to pick up, a 2-for-1 special here tonight. So Davies, he's got a coupon for passes, and Brad Davies trying to pick up a couple positions for the price of one, and he will do just that. Brad Davies moves up a couple spots, a little bit of a wiggle, but Davies will gather it up, and Lewandowski will pass up the 48 of Brad Wright as well.
So the rookie falls back a couple of positions as it looks like the 18 of Daniel Pope might be going one lap down here to these drivers as they work on the outside line of the wounded 18 car. Leaders working down the back straightaway, top 7 single file, and now a little bit of separation between about 7th and 8th place. I believe Nolan Scott back here trying to hold on to a position.
Steve Sheehan is your leader. Richard Towler is closing that gap, and Derek Wood sits in 3rd, and Wood is starting to track down Towler.
Indeed he is. A little bit of separation between your top 3, and then a tightly knit pack back here for fourth. On back to seventh. You got Parker, Davies, Lewandowski, and Brad Wright. And Brad Wright looks like he may have used up what was left of those tires as he's starting to fall back a little bit further from this three-car battle for fourth.
Very impressive run for Brad Davies to be back up in the top 5. Let's not forget the mistake on pit road for Brad Davies, and Davies to be back up in the top 5. Very impressive to say the least, Tim.
And he is a fighting fifth right now as he's closing in on Josh Parker for position number 4 as these drivers go into corner number 1. Lap 39 being worked on the board, and Derek Wood looking over Richard Towler for position number 2, or at least had a good run into the corner. It's not going to translate off of corner number 2.
Battle for the top spot. Richard Towler closed in on Steve Sheehan. They're side by side, door to door out of turn number 4 here at Michigan.
Talk about driving it in hard. That's what Richard Towler did in corner number 3, and it did not stick for Richard Towler. He falls back in behind Steve Sheehan, and that's what it's going to have to take here, Daryl. A very strong run into the corner, and you're going to have to hold it on coming out of the corner in order to make a pass here at Michigan, or at least at this point in the race.
You ride in car with the defending world champion Richard Towler as Towler tries once again to close that gap between himself and Steve Sheehan. Sheehan, your race leader. Richard Towler is second. Derek Wood is third. About an equal gap between first and second. Third now, about 10 car lengths back.
Great run down the front straightaway for Towler. He's going to be on the inside of Steve Sheehan this time, side by side for the lead. And Richard Towler might have it this time about mid-corner. Here comes Steve Sheehan on the outside line. Sheehan might have the lead back at a 2.
Sheehan with that high side will have the advantage on the backstretch, keeps that momentum up on the high line, and Sheehan maintains the top spot, and this could cost Richard Towler some time to Derek Wood. Wood, I don't know that Wood has the opportunity or has the car still underneath him to make that move on Richard Towler without a mistake from RT.
And I thought RT may have had that lead. He had such a great run down the front straightaway, was there on Sheehan, but Sheehan had that outside line out of corner number 2. Towler just ran out of time to complete that pass under that exchange for the lead. As you look back at Richard Towler from Steve Sheehan, they will come up on one car here of lap traffic. That's the 34, Justin Trombley.
This is some good stuff here at Michigan with the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Here comes Richard Towler. Yet again, Towler trying to get down to the inside of Sheehan. Towler might be looking a little bit too late for Sheehan to be able to make that pass. Towler will have that inside groove. Sheehan the outside run. Sheehan will maintain the spot. Towler still on the inside run. This could be the lap for Richard Towler.
Great run into the corner. He's going to clear him. Now is it going to stick for Richard Towler? He goes up the racetrack a little bit, and I believe that's going to be the pass right there. Lap 43 goes to the 0-8 to Towler. Here comes Sheehan looking back on him. The 54 of Derek Wood is there as well. Here comes Wood flashing the nose on the inside.
Derek Wood shows the nose to the inside of Richard Towler as Wood goes up to second spot. Sheehan drops down to third, and look who showed up in fourth spot. It's Brad Davies.
Brad Davies all over the back of the number 6 is Steve Sheehan looking to make the move on the TaxSlayer.com Impala. Here he comes on the inside line. The Whiskey River, number 11, makes it look easy.
Towler is your leader. Derek Wood sits in second. Towler trying to pull away from Derek Wood, your defending world champion, winless thus far on the season, Tim.
And Darrell, I think those two are going to have to run and hide because Brad Davies has a very solid race car behind them in third, and he is coming to the front. He wants to lead away. It's just a matter of if this thing stays green, how long it takes him to get up here to this 54 and 08.
Brad Davies looking for win number 2 on the season as these drivers approach the halfway point here at this racetrack. Round number 10 for this series. Round 10 as we start the second half of this season. An 18-race season. 9 rounds are down. This is the start of the second half of the 2011 NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship.
And Davies, 8th place in points coming into this race, and you talked about halfway through the season. If you had a dismal first half of the season, you have to turn it around, and you have to turn it around now. We saw Ray Alfala have tough luck in this race. The second half of the season so far, not kind to the number 2.
No, not kind of the number 2 thus far for the second half of the season. We may have the opportunity to talk to Ray Alfala in just a little while. Our next yellow flag, Ray has been gracious enough to tell us he'll come back and he'll speak with us under our next opportunity. Ray Alfala not happy about the way his race has ended, but wanted the opportunity to, I believe, speak about his new sponsors and talk to us a little bit about the racing action.
And right now, his nearest competitor in the championship hunt, Thomas Hazard, runs in position number 12. Thomas Hazard has his hands full back here with Charles Cosper. Cosper about 3 car lengths off the back of the number 9 at this point. So Hazard content to ride right now in position number 12. He came into this race after having some tough luck at Pocono last week.
We talked about earlier on the struggles that Patrick Fogel had to get even into this race here tonight. They have been worth it. Patrick Fogel running in the 9th position. The number 51, solid run for Patrick Fogel here tonight. And he had to scratch and claw just to qualify into tonight's race, Tim.
Indeed he did, as the 16 of Thomas Lewandowski has worked his way up to the rear of the number 6 of Steve Sheehan. Sheehan looking to hold on to that position. Sheehan stayed out under the last caution, so he has older tires on that race car as those drivers battle for that position number 4 into corner number 1.
Right on the roof of Thomas Lewandowski's number 16 as he gets a good look at the tax slayer machine of Steve Sheehan as Lewandowski trying to find a way by Sheehan in the number 6. That's a battle for the 4th position here at Michigan. So Steve Sheehan trying to hold on to a top 5, albeit on some older tires than some of these other drivers as we are halfway home here at Michigan International Speedway.
Into corner number 1 they go, the 6 and the 16. The 16 of Lewandowski all over the back of that number 6. And it looks like he closes in from a couple of car lengths behind and then just can't seem to do anything with Sheehan. At least that's how it's been the last couple of laps. We'll see if that changes this time with the second half of this race underway.
Second half of the race that starts the second half of the season. Richard Towler is your race leader. Derek Wood sits in second. Brad Davies is third. Steve Sheehan is fourth. Thomas Lewandowski is fifth. That's your top 5 the way that they run.
And your top 3 have broken away by about a second and a half over the battle for 4th between Sheehan and Lewandowski. So a little bit of separation as the field comes past. I believe that's Josh Berry in the 72. Indeed it is. 1 lap down for Berry.
Several drivers making the decision to pit a little bit earlier than some of the race leaders, and we could see green flag pit stops here, Tim.
Indeed we could, and watch that 72 of Berry. He has the newer tires on that race car, and he's going to go past the 11 like the 11 is standing still. The main performance PC 72 to the inside of the number 11.
Lewandowski did get by the number 6 of Sheehan, so Lewandowski passes up Steve Sheehan and will set his sights on Brad Davies. So Steve Sheehan down to the 5th position, Thomas Lewandowski up to 4th.
And I believe Josh Parker is starting to chip away at this battle here for 4th and 5th. And as Sheehan falls back just a little bit, it may open the door for Josh Parker to get up here into the top 5, as Parker runs about 3.5 seconds behind your leader, Richard Towler, who has about 0.4 of a second on Derek Wood.
Battle for second spot as Brad Davies on the high side, Derek Wood on the inside. The battle for second spot rages here as they come out of turn number 4. And it's going to be Davies on the high side with the position, but here comes Derek Wood battling back on the inside.
Derek Wood not going to let it go easy. Brad Davies on the high side had a huge wiggle on the other side of the racetrack when these drivers were battling for position number 2. Can Davies clear him off the corner? No, he can't. They're still side by side for second.
Brian Blackford around, brings out the yellow flag, and that'll slow us down. So Blackford involved, and it looks like it may have been just a solo spin for Brian Blackford. And the car got loose in turn number 4, and around went the back end of the number 33 for Brian Blackford.
Tough break for Blackford, car getting away from him as the leader comes across to complete lap number 55. We're starting lap number 56 under the caution flag here. Towler, Wood, Davies, Lewandowski, and Sheehan, your top 5. And if you're like Steve Sheehan and a couple of these other drivers who are falling back through this field, you needed this caution flag because you want some tires.
So Richard Towler will lead the field down, and we'll likely see wholesale pit stops for these drivers. Richard Towler likely to lead this field down, and Tim, I wouldn't be surprised. 4 tires, maybe a couple adjustments, but everybody's going to get 4 tires, fill these cars up with fuel, and get ready for a nice long, long run.
But you have to be spotless on this pit stop, Darrell. You cannot have a mistake like the 11 of Brad Davies had on his last pit stop. As these drivers come down the long pit road here at the Michigan International Speedway, Richard Towler looking towards the end of pit road, looking to get into his box cleanly and have a clean stop. Looks like it's going to happen as the number 6 is Steve Sheehan. I'm not sure if he's on the other side of his box. They are going to service that race car, but boy, oh boy, really close to that line at the end of his pit stall. 4 tires going on these drivers at the front of the field, and I believe Sheehan might win this race off pit road.
Steve Sheehan wins the battle from the pit. Second out is going to be the number 08 of Richard Towler. Third out of the pits will be Thomas Lewandowski, followed by Derek Wood, Josh Parker, Charles Cosper, Brad Wright, and Brad Davies, followed by the rest of this field. And it's an impressive field, to say the least. Unfortunately, Tim, it's a field that does not include the driver that you have caught up with, Ray Alfala.
Ray Alfala sporting some new colors here this week, but the luck doesn't transfer over to the new paint scheme. Ray, what happened?
Yeah, I've been told that this paint scheme is cursed, but I don't believe that. First, I got to thank Matt Salo and JD Laird for putting this deal together. Pro Beat Consulting. We go way back with a league I used to run called Ascors about 3 or 4 years ago, and Matt used to sponsor that league, so it's pretty cool that he's now on iRacing, and not the way we wanted to debut this scheme for sure. And I mean, the car, this is historically my worst track, so I was just here trying to get a top 10, maybe a top 5, and I just don't know what Derek was doing. I mean, going into turn 3, like, it's a wide open track, definitely is not, but I saw him hit Gorlinski, and I wasn't sure how much Gorlinski was going to, slide up the track and bounce back down. So I tried to slow down in order to just go low, and I guess Jeremy just didn't check up in time and just ran me over, and we all wrecked. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just racing, I guess, but there's no need to be racing that stupid this early.
And you talk about this early, we just passed the halfway mark in the season. How does this change the game plan going forward, knowing that you're more than likely going to have to drop this Michigan race?
Yeah, this is definitely a drop. I mean, if there's a positive spin out of this is that, there's no more protecting the lead. I know that anything can happen, and I'm just going to go out there and try to win races, really. I mean, it's always nice having a big point lead, but at the same time, you start seeing yourself starting to, be more careful and not take so many chances. And sometimes you end up in the back, or farther back than where you should be, and people work in front of you. So, next race is New Hampshire is one of my best tracks, and I'm definitely not going to be backing out there.
We talked to some of these drivers earlier and saying that this COT car, a little bit hard to handle here at Michigan. You mentioned going to a flat track next week, like New Hampshire in 2 weeks' time. What's the transition like to put yourself out of this 200-plus mile-an-hour racetrack and get down to that New Hampshire Motor Speedway?
It's just completely different. I really don't like this track at all, the way these cars currently drive here, just because there's no apex, there's no defined line. It's just you're just out there in the corner forever. And New Hampshire, you just got to hit your marks, and it's more of a short track type. And I mean they're completely different, but it definitely suits my style better for whatever reason.
Lights out. We got one to go before we go green. Ray, let's hear who makes it happen for this number 2 team.
Yeah, once again, I got to thank Pro Geek Consulting with Matt Salo and JD Laird and with JDR Graphics putting this together, and everybody over at Ascores that were watching. And I don't know, the field can feel free to wreck.
There we go. There's Ray Alfala, driver of the number 2. Ray, we wish you all the best.
Thanks, guys.
There we go, Daryl. Cars are doubled up, and we are getting ready to go back to green flag racing just past the halfway mark. We will have 41 laps to go when we see the green.
41 laps remain here, and obviously Steve Sheehan would like nothing more than to see this thing go green flag for the distance, and I think if it does, Steve Sheehan's in really good shape, although Richard Towler may have something to say about that, as may Thomas Lewandowski, Derek Wood, or even Josh Parker. And let's not count out guys like Charles Cosper searching for that win, Brad Wright, Brad Davies, Nolan Scott. There are a host of drivers looking for those wins. And Thomas Hazard, he's looking for win number 3 on the season, Tim.
And he's going to have to restart all the way back in position number 11 if he wants to get up here to the front. The Ford Mustang pace car has pulled into the infield. The 6 of Steve Sheehan. We'll see how slow he brings him down this time. Not as much. Green flag flies, and Steve Sheehan has a huge lead off the hop.
Sheehan will lead him down into turn number 1, and that's the leader's prerogative. He can bring him down as fast or as slow as he wants. Once that pace car leaves the racetrack, it's all up to the leader when to go or when to make them wait. Steve Sheehan in previous restarts has made them wait. This time it was drop the hammer and go.
Lewandowski now on the inside line trying to hold his own with Josh Parker in the 81. He was just passed by Derek Wood. And here comes the 48 as well, looking for a piece of this battle as the 81 looks to have the advantage on the outside line. Brad Davies now makes a move on Brad Wright. He looks over Lewandowski.
Looking over Brad Davies as he tries to find room around Lewandowski, but he's got to be careful of Brad Wright as Wright tries to get a look on Brad Davies as well.
Tries to get a look on Brad Davies. Davies looking over the 16 of Lewandowski, and Lewandowski not letting the 81 get too far ahead into this fantastic battle for position number 4 as they come across the stripe this time. 39 laps remaining.
The 15 car and the 14 cars around on the backstretch, and we have difficulty on the backstretch to say the least, and it looks like Steve Sheehan wowing it down just a little bit. That'll be a yellow flag.
And, looking back to 2 weeks ago, we gave Josh Connors the good hands of the year after somehow getting through a huge melee at Pocono. There's no way to avoid a spinning car like Matthew Moose. Matthew Moose comes down the racetrack and into the path of the oncoming 15 car, and they go synchronized spinning down the back straightaway to bring out the yellow flag.
Your top five: Steve Sheehan, Richard Towler, Derek Wood, Josh Parker, and Thomas Lewandowski. They are being chased by Brad Davies, Brad Wright, Nolan Scott, Byron Daly, and Thomas Hazard. That is your top 10, the way they run here at Michigan International Speedway. We're going to go ahead and step away for a quick break here on PSR TV. Don't you dare go away. You're watching the round number 10 action from Michigan International Speedway right here on PSR TV.
iRacing.com is the premier online racing simulation featuring head-to-head competition on your PC. Race from your home PC, competing on the world's best real-world cars and tracks. Thousands of race fans and scores of pro racers like Dale Jr. and Justin Wilson are already racing at iRacing. Experience the thrill of victory yourself and go racing today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back here on PSR TV. Steve Sheehan still your race leader. However, the top 10 has changed up just a wee bit as Steve Sheehan continues to lead. Richard Towler sits in second. Derek Wood is third. Fourth is Josh Parker. Now fifth belongs to Brad Davies. Sixth is Brad Wright. Seventh is Nolan Scott. Eighth is Byron Daly. Ninth is Thomas Hazard. And 10th is Connor McKenzie, Tim.
Sitting in position number 11 at this point, Daryl, is Charles Cosberg. 12th place belongs to Patrick Fogel. 13th is Stephen Gilbert. 14th belongs to Chris Main. 15th is Jeremy Allen. Jordan Erickson is in 16th. 17th is Robert Hall. 18th is Justin Lowry. Sandeep Banerjee runs in 19th, and 20th belongs to Chad Coleman.
21st, we find Vinny Sansone. 22nd is Jordan Hightower. 23rd is Thomas Lewandowski. 24th is the number 33 of Brian Blackbird. 25th is Richie Davidowitz. 26th is Pedro Mojica. 27th is John Prather. 28th is Tyler Hudson. 29th is Dana Weimer. And 30th is John Costa.
31st on backsies, Josh Connors, Florian Goddard, Andrew Fayash III, and Matthew Moose. One lap down, Brian Schoenberg, Josh Berry, and Justin Trombley back to 37th. Drivers currently out of this race include John Gorlinski, Daniel Pope II, Ray Alfala, Darren Stevens, Josh Lawton, and Jamison Spieth. That is your field as they run here at Michigan. Pace car about to duck off. Or the lights are still on. Never mind, I guess I must be blind.
Tim, for those of us that can see the pace car lights and those of us that are those out there that do not yet have the opportunity to see those pace car lights in action, how would somebody get to see these pace cars and these race cars if they don't yet have the iRacing service?
Well, of course, they head over to iRacing.com. We talked with Tony a little bit earlier. You can head over right now. New members can buy 1 month and they will get 2 for free. So you pretty much get 3 months for the price of 1. And whether you are a road driver, or maybe you're an oval driver, maybe you want to race both, you can do that at iRacing.com. And you could see yourself here within the next 8 months if you really drive the wheels off your race cars to get up here and race in the NASCAR iRacing Series World Championship. It takes a lot of talent, it takes a lot of patience, and I know for a fact, Daryl, and I know you know from driving some of these race cars, that they can be a handful at times. I spent last night practicing this Class A car at Infineon Raceway, and I can tell you it's a blast, but it's a handful, and you have to drive these cars on the edge of out of control in order to be fast, whether it is on an oval like Michigan or a road course like Sears Point.
No problem. I'm always on the edge of out of control. As a matter of fact, I'm on the edge of out of control before I even leave the pits. I qualify, right, Tim?
Indeed you do.
Perfect. Love it. Of course, I'm also doing 30 miles an hour and on the edge of out of control, but that's a whole different story. We won't even start to go into that one. These drivers, however, they may reach the edge of out of control, but it's not until they're up around the 200-mile-per-hour mark. Pace car is off. Steve Sheehan in control of the field, and he will drop the hammer immediately. Green flag flies, and we are back underway.
And he is gone from the rest of this field. Side by side for second. Here comes 54 on the inside. Derek Wood looking over the 0-8 to Richard Towler. Side by side for second. Wood up the racetrack. He goes. 0-8 going to try to take that position off the corner.
Towler going to have the run down the back stretch. Wood will try to keep that foot all the way to the floor as they enter turn number 3, as Wood almost trips up the racetrack, able to keep it locked down to the inside. That's going to cost him some momentum, however, and Richard Towler will keep it locked up in spot number 2.
And he's lucky it didn't cost him another position. Here comes the 81 now looking up over the 54 of Derek Wood. Josh Parker looking to take third as Derek Wood goes back on the attack underneath the 0-8. I don't think he's going to have it this time on this end of the racetrack.
As they battle for second, Josh Parker closes in on this duo. So now Josh Parker could be a factor in the battle for third. So Parker and the number 81 Suave for Men degree-sponsored entry, we should say. Josh Parker trying to flex his muscles here on the World Wide Web. And as a lot of these drivers know, Josh Parker, when he decides it's time to go, he is lethal on the racetrack. And I say lethal in your chances to win. He's not going to take you out, but Josh Parker will race you about as hard as anybody's ever raced anybody else before.
Hey, Daryl, did you talk about time to go? Steve Sheehan's gone by about a second over this field.
Yeah, Steve Sheehan has checked out, at least temporarily checked out for the time being. These drivers are going to have to get in line and try to track down Steve Sheehan, perhaps wait and see if Steve Sheehan has a short run set up in his car. I'm not really sure, but right now Steve Sheehan checking out from this field, and the gap is growing. 1.186 seconds over Richard Towler.
And it seems like everybody back behind Steve Sheehan right now content to ride. Everybody has a little bit of a separation between them. Look at that 6th place car. 91, a Byron Daly career run in this series for the GS Racing Chevrolet Impalas. He is up in 6th and looking for a little bit more.
Of course, GS Racing, one of the premier truck leagues in all of iRacing, and they put on a fantastic show every Thursday night. GSRacing.net is the website for GS Racing, and Byron Daly proudly sporting the colors for GSR.
And he's got Brad Davies right behind him. Here comes Davies closing in on the number 91. This will be a battle for position number 6 as they go down the back straightaway. The Whiskey River Chevrolet Impala pokes the nose to the inside, and it looks like the 11 will take the position away from the 91.
.29 laps remain here at Michigan International Speedway. Steve Sheehan, 1.5 seconds out from your, the 91 of Byron Daly around in turns 1 and 2, down in front of this field, and he'll gather it back up. Oh, that could have been big, Tim.
And we are under the caution flag, and Darrell, he was trying to come back underneath Brad Davies and try the crossover move after Davies had made that move for position number 6, but he just could not make the move. There wasn't enough grip down there. He had to back out, and when he did, the back end backed out from that number 91 and into the wall. He went, and he has some damage to the GSRacing.net Chevrolet Impala.
And Sandeep Banerjee came to basically a halt to avoid the spinning car of the number 91 of Byron Daly. So we'll see if we see drivers coming down to make what should be and could be final pit stops, pending, of course, late race yellows. But Kevin King, we're going to bring you back in here for a second. We're going to throw you in one of these cars here temporarily. We're going to put you in, let's say, Steve Sheehan's car. You've got a dominant car. Do you pit here?
Absolutely, you pit. He's really fast. He's been fast all week long. He's going to be up front, and he's going to be clocking off some probably sub-38s here. And as fast as he was going that last run is going to be in need of some tires. So definitely as a leader in these cars at this track, you're going to pit probably anytime you get more than a 10-lap run here.
And just as if he was listening to Kevin King, Tim, everybody, including Steve Sheehan, down onto pit road, and Sheehan has to readjust his spot in the pits, and it looks like they will service that car, but he may be over the line.
And that's where he had to pull up just a little bit to get into that box, and that's going to cost him. Here comes Richard Towler. Is it going to be close off pit road? Oh, it might be Derek Wood at the end. Steve Sheehan was close. Sheehan's pulling out in front of everybody, but I tell you what, it was mighty close.
That one almost cost him right there, as that little bobble on pit road can take it all away in a heartbeat, and almost took that lead away from Steve Sheehan. And it looks like being able to be out in the clean air, as we call it, seems to be a little bit of a benefit, doesn't it, Tim?
Indeed it does. As those drivers return to the racetrack, the one thing that I'm seeing right now is Josh Berry and Brian Schoenberg in front of your field, and they are currently 1 lap down. They are looking for the wave around, Darrell, to get back on the lead lap. That would put us with 36 drivers on the lead lap. Usually we see in a race like this that there's some attrition beginning to add up. We do have some drivers out of this race. We mentioned Gorlinski, Pope, Alfala, Stevens, Lawton, and Spieth are out of this race. But we are going to have more than likely 36 drivers on the lead lap and in contention for this win with just over 25 laps to go.
And every single driver that's remaining on the racetrack and every driver that's on the lead lap will be a contender for the win. I mean, that's the way it is. That's the way it goes. I mean, you're on the racetrack, you're on the lead lap. If you're on the lead lap, you're a contender to win. There's no two ways about it. Brian Schoenberg knows that, yeah, you're a lap down. Yeah, you're on older tires. Sure, you're running low on laps. Dig hard, because you never know. The top few drivers could start or trigger a chain reaction, take out the majority of this field, and you could still wind up winning this thing. Stranger things have happened. Tim, you and I have been in this sim racing announcing deal for quite some time. We've seen stranger things happen.
Indeed we have, and you look at that if something happens in this second half of the season that's horrendous, that Brian Schoenberg or possibly Josh Berry end up down in that top 25 bubble, every single point could very well count towards that goal of getting in to next season, or it could very well mean the difference of a couple of $100 when it comes to the money at the end of this 2011 NASCAR iRacing Series World Championship. These points that they could gain back by getting on the lead lap, possibly they grab a quick caution, it could mean everything in the grand scheme of things. But how about the other TaxSlayer.com, number 45, up in front, John Prather, getting some love at the front, a little bit of damage on the back end of that Chevrolet Impala, but he is leading laps here under the caution flag. We anticipate him to come down pit road this time.
Drivers starting to have a little bit of fun out here on the racetrack with their sponsor plugs under yellow flag conditions during the yellow flag here. They're giving their sponsor plugs, and this is something that Steve Sheehan is never left out of, nor is Josh Parker. I believe they've got it auto chat keyed. All they've got to do is hit a button, and immediately it comes up, TaxSlayer.com, and it's something they enjoy doing, and it's something that's fun for all the drivers involved, and the spectators seem to enjoy it as well.
So we have the lights off on the pace car. I'm pretty sure they're off this time. Yeah, I don't see any lights on top of that pace car.
Double check it, Tim. Double check it.
Yeah, I think they're off this time. Nevertheless, they're all doubled up, so that would be the indication that we are going green flag racing next time by. And Steve Sheehan leads this field. It will be 24 laps to go when we come by the stripe to take the green flag. And this would be huge for Sheehan to go back-to-back in this series. Of course, he won one race last year. It would be his third win if he can somehow hang on to this one here, but he's got some strong competition behind him.
He's got some huge competition behind him. I don't know that anybody's gone back-to-back this season. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure nobody's gone back-to-back this season. As if they did, they would have had back-to-back appearances on HLR, and we haven't yet had anybody with back-to-back appearances on HLR. So I think that's a pretty good confirmation that nobody's gone back-to-back on the season. So Steve Sheehan trying to do something that nobody has done yet. Pace car is off. Sheehan in control. He's making him wait this time. Sheehan spins the tires a little bit. This could be big for the rest of the field. Sheehan leads him across the stripe. We're under green, and we're stacking him up on the front stretch. Lewandowski involved in the 18 or the 16.
Oh, the 3 is Stephen Gilbert. Hardlick. Oh, Chris Main is in it. Oh, Charles Cosper up and over. Wild ride for Cosper in the 03. Nolan Scott involved. I believe the 85 of Erickson is in this. A lot of drivers slowing down at the back. The 83 of Chad Coleman gets into it after the fact with the 85. Oh, it might be easier to say who wasn't involved in this wreck. Daryl, caution flag flies.
And it looked like the 06 may have gotten a little bit loose on that restart, possibly spun the tires. And that's exactly what may have triggered this whole deal. And Charles Cosper may have taken the worst ride of that whole deal. That was nasty.
Indeed it was. And trying to look up here to drivers that weren't involved in this wreck, and there might only be about 15 or 16 of them that got away scot-free from that one. So a real tough break for those guys running about mid-pack, and some good drives by some of those guys just to get around the spinning race cars. And it might be a saving grace as well for Steve Sheehan after spinning the tires in this restart.
And we mentioned a little bit ago that anything can happen. Well, anything is starting to potentially happen for a lot of these drivers that were lucky dogs, or not lucky dogs, but wave-around drivers not that long ago on that most recent yellow flag. Well, this will give them the opportunity to come down, get those tires that they need, make that pit stop that they need, and then get back out there, and you never know. this thing could happen.
And those drivers back there, the likes of Schoenberg and Barry, they slowed down enough to not get involved in this incident. Their cars look pretty good so far, or at least pretty good at this vantage point. So they will be able to come down pit road and get service on their race cars, as you mentioned, Daryl, and pass a lot of these guys that were involved in this.
Several drivers heavily.
Josh Berry trying to figure out where he was going past a couple of drivers, and you mentioned that number 3 is Stephen Gilbert spewing out that black smoke. There's a lot of drivers in front of him. I believe that might be Chad Coleman up there sporting some front end damage to his race car. There's a bunch of guys here that are going to have to come down pit road and get some service on their race cars to get them up to performance condition. You talk about that meatball flag that could very well bite a few of these guys.
Looks like we may have the opportunity for Tim Terry to hook up with Nolan Scott. Tim Terry, I believe you've got some communications with Nolan Scott.
Nolan Scott involved in this most recent caution, and it looked like a pinball, Nolan, right in the middle of that one.
Yeah, I had that damage from early on. Me and Brian got into it. It looked like a complete accident on Brian's part. Came back, ran in the top 10 the rest of the race, which I could not believe the car was doing. I mean, we were 0.3 lap off on the first run, and then about 1.5 on the second with some tire pressure adjustments. And every restart, it was real bad on that left rear. And finally, I just couldn't hold on to it. I was getting down there in the nitty gritty, and I glanced over at Tyler Hudson, and as soon as I did, the car just went around, and that was it. I struggled with it all race. I was surprised it lasted that long. So.
You've had some strong runs as of late. We come into the second half of the season, and coming in, you were 14th place in the point standings. What's the goals heading forward in the second half of this NASCAR iRacing Series World Championship for Nolan Scott?
Top 10s. That's it. Point blank. That's just all I want every week. Anywhere in that area, I don't care. Just as long as I make it to the end in a top 10, I'm happy.
And that's where it is right now. As you sit just about in the bubble, this will knock you down a few points. What would be the mentality going in to 2 weeks at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, knowing that you're just hovering around that 25th place mark?
Well, I think we're going to have a good package at New Hampshire. That's a little bit better package for us on a whole than a Michigan, even though we really dialed it in. In terms of the mindset going in there, it's not going to be any different than it normally is. Just, get that car ready for that week and run that race. Just completely forget about this. This was, I had some good runs, had some bad runs that turned out to be pretty decent, like Darlington 22nd. So I'm not super duper concerned with this. I'm not upset with this, but I am a little bit more frantic in terms of getting those top 10s, like I said, is my goal.
We have one to go before we go back to green flag racing. Nolan, we let you have the opportunity to give anybody shout-outs out there, any final thoughts. The mic is all yours.
Well, first of all, I want to apologize to everybody that was involved in that incident. Completely my fault. Sorry to NX Racing, sorry to Wheelmen Inc., and sorry to Fat Cat Servers. Check out fatcatservers.com. You get a chance. I appreciate their help. But other than that, I'm just sorry to cause a big incident like that.
And that's Nolan Scott, driver of the number 06. We wish you all the best, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
In case you missed it, there was a big incident, large incident on the front stretch. We'll take a look at it next opportunity we get. We do have replays. We'll show you the next opportunity we get. However, we are getting set to go back to green flag racing here on PSR TV. Steve Sheehan is your race leader. Derek Wood sits in second. Richard Towler is third, followed by Josh Parker and Brad Wright to round out your top 5. Pace cars should be making that hard left-hand turn down onto pit road any point here as they work their way out of turn number 4. Pace car should make that hard left-hand turn. Come on, pace car, get that Ford Mustang off the racetrack as we get set to go racing. Green flag flies. We are back underway.
Derek Wood spins the tires up the racetrack. He goes, and here comes Richard Towler. RT looking underneath Josh Parker for third, and he might try the 54 for second.
Richard Towler now having to battle with Josh Parker. They almost touch out of turn number 2. Now down the backstretch, Towler is going to have to deal with the number 11 of Brad Davies.
Here comes Brad Davies. Here comes Richard Towler. They know they have to go under 20 laps to go. Got to make your move. You got to make it now if you want to win this race, and Steve Sheehan knows it. He's out by over 0.8 of a second.
You watch your defending world champion Richard Towler, the 08, as he tries to track down the 81 of Josh Parker. You ride in car now. The brand new paint scheme for Richard Towler, the new pink, black, and white 08 for Richard Towler as Towler tries to close in on Josh Parker.
Trying to close in for that third place position, and just in front of them sits the 54 of Derek Wood. And Steve Sheehan has checked out from the rest of this field, 1 second up on second place as these drivers work down the back straightaway, at least through your top 10 in single file.
Top 10 single file, all trying to get in line and maybe have some sort of opportunity to track down Steve Sheehan. You look out the rear bumper of Josh Parker back to Richard Towler as Towler tries to close in on Josh Parker. Towler had that run going but had to lift just a little bit. Didn't want to go into turn number 1 on a different entry angle than he was comfortable doing. Had to lift, kind of broke that momentum, lost some ground.
Indeed he did. Looking at that number 81 of Josh Parker, he was looking over the 54 of Derek Wood that last time by. The 08 looking, he's fast. Does he have the line here? He looks on the inside, flashes the nose of that 08 on the inside. He is there, Darrell. Can he complete the pass?
He's got to complete it by the middle of the corner. If he's still side by side on the exit, it should be Josh Parker's exit. If he can slide up here, and it looks like he will, Richard Towler completes the wiggle for Richard Towler, and Towler will complete the pass, but this could open up an opportunity for Josh Parker to fire back at Towler.
14.5 laps to go. Here comes Davies in the number 11. Brad Davies looking over the 81 of Josh Parker. Parker now trying to hold on to that number 81 and trying to hold on to a top 5 run here. He's back to 4th, and he's got the 11 of Davies all over the back.
Davies all over Parker. Parker steadily trying to hold on to positions, but sliding back just a little bit. Parker may very well have a 5th place car.
But he's going to have to fight to continue to get up there in that top 5, or at least stay in that top 5, because Brad Wright is closing in on this battle. And if this does stay green the rest of the way, Josh Parker may have to fight to keep a top 5 position alive into that number 81 as Brad Davies. Great run in the middle of the corner off here for Josh Parker. Looks like he's going to pull away a little bit from Brad Davies.
I'll tell you what, Josh Parker could somehow, some way make a Twinkie fast. I mean, that young man can wheel a race car. Josh Parker has skills.
Indeed, he does, holding on to that fourth place position, trying to close in on Richard Towler in the 08, and it looks like he may have closed in just a little bit that time by 0.2 of a second. Between your third and fourth place drivers is Brad Davies wheeling that race car, nearly lost control going into corner number 1 in the Whiskey River Impala.
Looking at Brad Davies in the number 11 as Davies trying to close in on the number 81 of Josh Parker. Parker trying to keep that distance or keep that gap relatively equal. And Josh Parker has done well at doing that. Parker 208 miles an hour entering turn number 1.
And he is wheeling that race car around this Michigan International Speedway. The 11 of Davies continues to close in. Brad Wright trying everything that he has in that race car to close in, about a 10 car length advantage between the 11 and the number 48. This time by 10 laps remaining at Michigan.
10 laps to go, and the gap between Sheehan and Derek Wood is shrinking ever so slightly. It was a second just about 3 laps ago. Now it's down to 0.7 of a second. 0.739 seconds to be exact. The gap between Sheehan and Wood. Derek Wood, he's a-working it.
Indeed he is, but you'd have to think once he gets up there to Steve Sheehan, if he gets up here to Steve Sheehan in these remaining 9.5 laps, that Sheehan might make that car just a couple of more lanes wider in order to preserve what could possibly be his second consecutive win in the NASCAR iRacing Series World Championship. 91 complete this time by, and Sheehan looks like he nearly extended the lead, but Derek Wood indeed does close in by 1/10.
And at this current rate, Wood will catch Sheehan with about 3 laps to go, make it maybe 2.5 laps to go. Plenty of time to potentially work over the number 6 for Derek Wood, but catching him's one thing, Tim, passing him something totally different. And as we've seen, you get to about a 1/10 of a second gap, and it gets a whole lot more difficult to start working your way around him.
And you got to remember, too, he's got to start closing in at a little bit faster rate. He only closed in a 0.5 that time by. As you ride on board with Derek Wood, if something happens, that a caution flag comes out at this point, Darrell, this race could very well be over within the next couple of laps. We see a caution flag fly. That could very well be the ending of this race. So Derek Wood has to think that in the back of his mind. He's got to get up on the wheel and get this gap closed.
He's also going to be careful on how hard he works, because the harder he works right now, the less race car he's going to have once he catches him. But if he saves too much, he's not going to catch Steve Sheehan. Half a second now, 0.554, the gap between Steve Sheehan and Derek Wood.
He gained a 1/10 of a second that time. If he continues to do that, he will catch him with 2 to go, maybe even on the white flag lap. But he's got a sniff of that draft now, Darrell. A half second behind. It's going to start becoming a bigger and bigger closing rate for Derek Wood as Steve Sheehan continues to lead. 94 complete this time.
No change on the interval. Last lap by Steve Sheehan continues to have a 0.555 seconds, so a little bit of a gain for Steve Sheehan. We'll see what the interval does this time. 0.480. Steve Sheehan loses a little bit more ground to Derek Wood.
Just over a 0.5 of a second that lap. We are at 5 laps remaining. In order for Derek Wood to win this race, he's going to have to continue to dig and dig hard in these last 4.5 laps. He cannot let up now. This is not the time to roll over. They have, and it looks like the caution flag is out. This could be the end of it.
Yellow flag flies. This could be the conclusion, or we could have ourselves a one-lap shootout. Not quite sure, but it looks like it might be the end of this one.
And looking at the replay of that wreck, Daryl Davidowitz in the number 25 just got bad loose, and it hooked right into the wall, and it hooked back left and into Justin Trombley. Trombley had nowhere to go, and that hot lap radio car hooked into the wall. Tough break for those two drivers to bring out the caution flag here. And I believe, Daryl, this race might very well be over as we're working lap number 97 under caution.
Steve Sheehan continues to lead, and it looks like this might be a conclusion for him. Tim, an awesome race to say the least. I sure would have loved to have seen what would have happened or could have happened if Derek Wood maybe could have caught Steve Sheehan. That would have been one heck of a battle between two good friends. Well, I don't know if I'd call them good friends, but certainly two rivals to say the least.
Fantastic battle that these guys have had in the past, and it was shaping up to be the same. I don't think it's going to happen. The lights are going to have to go off this time by in order for us to ensue a finish, and I don't think it's going to happen. So Steve Sheehan going to go back to back in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Wood in second, and how about Richard Towler comes so close again? He's going to finish in third.
And, you know, I believe when Steve Sheehan was on Hot Lap Radio, we asked him who his rival was, and I believe, didn't he mention Derek Wood? Was that on the air or off the air that he mentioned Derek Wood? I don't want to get Steve Sheehan in trouble, although I might just have gotten Steve Sheehan in trouble.
I'm not sure if it was on the air or off the air, but it's one of those rivals that runs deep in this NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, and I'm sure Steve and Derek were looking forward to racing each other, and we've seen a lot of respect in this race here this evening. Darryl, we saw it when Byron Daly was battling with Brad Davies. Just a lot of respect shown between these drivers back and forth, and I'm sure that's what we would have saw if we would have had this race play out green.
And you mentioned respect, and we've seen that respect shown between Steve Sheehan and Derek Wood as well. I have no doubt that Derek Wood would have raced him hard, would have raced Steve Sheehan hard, but would have raced him clean as well, especially with thousands watching around the world. I don't think he would have put the bumper to him unless he absolutely had to. You know, sometimes you feel like you absolutely have to. When the wind's on the line, Tim, the bumper might be the only option. And in 2 weeks when we head to New Hampshire, sometimes the bumper is the only option.
That is going to be a fun time in 2 weeks. And I'm sure Steve Sheehan will be looking to pull the three-peat. And just looking back here through the history, at least last season, into this series, we had Richard Towler go back-to-back at Charlotte and Michigan. we had Derek Wood go back-to-back at Texas and Michigan. I don't know if Michigan is nice to get that back-to-back win at, Darrell, but nobody has gone the three-peat, 3 consecutive wins in a row. Steve Sheehan will be looking to pull history next race out, as we're going to get the white flag this time.
The only driver to do it this season will be Steve Sheehan. White flag is draped over the racetrack, so Steve Sheehan will be the only driver this season thus far to go back-to-back on victories, as he wins last week at Pocono, and he will win this week here at Michigan. All he's got to do is just finish this one lap around Michigan International Speedway. 2 miles between Steve Sheehan and his second consecutive victory here in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. So Steve Sheehan coming on strong about the midpoint of the season, Tim.
Indeed, he is. Looking back here at the championship picture, Ray Alfala going to finish 40th. Thomas Hazard going to rebound for 9th. And coming in, they had that little points differential. It should be Thomas Hazard back out in front of this championship hunt. Brad Wright, though, is going to close in just a few points, albeit he finishes in 6th. Brad Wright going to look like maintain his 3rd place run. Tyler Hudson was 4th coming in. He's going to finish in 12th. And completing your top 5 in the points heading in, Brian Schoenberg. Schoenberg was down 1 lap at one time, just past the halfway mark in this race, Darrell. He finishes in 13th place. The other driver that was 1 lap down at that point, Josh Berry, going to come home in 10th. Not too bad for those 2 drivers who were a lap down, let's say, about 30 laps ago.
So he'll make his way out of turn number 4, leading the field, and they'll go ahead and put him 4 wide or 3 wide. Make it 4 and almost 5 wide now. They'll go ahead and do it 5 wide. Why not? 5 wide across the stripe for the driver to the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, and it's going to be Steve Sheehan taking home the win here at Michigan.
Sheehan, Wood, Towler, Parker, Davies, top 5. Brad Wright comes home in a 6th. How about Connor McKenzie, after being involved in an incident earlier in the race, comes home in 7th. We talked about the struggles that Patrick Fogel had this week. He comes home in 8th. 9th belongs to Thomas Hazard, and Josh Berry rounds out your top 10.
11 through 20th, we find Jeremy Allen, Tyler Hudson, Brian Schoenberg, Robert Hall, Josh Connors, as Sheehan will drift it around the racetrack, followed by Florian Goddard, Sandeep Banerjee, John Prather, Dana Weimer, and Byron Daly.
21st, on the way back to 30th, he's Jordan Hightower, Vinny Sansoni, Matthew Moose, Jean Costa, Andrew Fayash III, Brian Blackford, and Chad Coleman. Those are the drivers that finished on the lead lap. Pedro Mojica, 1 lap down. Thomas Lewandowski, 1 lap down in 29th. And Richie Davidowitz, 5 down in 30th.
The rest of this field, Justin Trombley's 31st. Then it's John Gorlinski, Justin Lowry, Stephen Gilbert, Nolan Scott, Chris Main, Charles Cosper, Jordan Erickson, Daniel Pope II, Ray Alfala, followed by Darren Stevens, Joshua Lawton, and Jamison Spieth, as Steve Sheehan will light them up and burn it down here in Victory Lane at Michigan International Speedway. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll see if we can't catch up with Tax Slayer's Track Slayer, and we can certainly call him that after 2 wins in a row for Steve Sheehan.
Oh, that just kills me.
iRacing.com is the premier online racing simulation featuring head-to-head competition on your PC. Race from your home PC, competing on the world's best real-world cars and tracks. Thousands of race fans and scores of pro racers like Dale Jr. and Justin Wilson are already racing at iRacing. Experience the thrill of victory yourself and go racing today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back here on PSR TV, and it does look like we will be able to catch up with at least some of our top finishers. Steve Sheehan takes home the win. Derek Wood takes home second spot. Richard Towler takes home third. Josh Parker takes home fourth. Fifth goes to Brad Davies, followed by Brad Wright, Connor McKenzie, Patrick Fogel, Thomas Hazard, and Josh Berry. We're going to go ahead and see if we can't pitch it down to Tim Terry, who will be catching up with Steve Sheehan. Tim?
Down here in Victory Lane, Steve Sheehan made it look easy this evening. 79 laps led in this number 6 car. Walk us through a night at Michigan.
Well, as fast as that race was, it's going to be more like a run. We ended early. The race was pretty clean. It looked good from my view for most of the night. Definitely the way I wanted to win a race. I have 2 wins in this series, one being a pro driver, and they were both... I kind of backed into both of them. Well, this one I did not. Derek was coming on strong at the end, but I think I had a real good car tonight. It was a blast.
You talked about Derek Wood coming strong at the end. You saw that caution flag fly. What was going through your mind those last couple of laps, knowing that 54 was coming?
Well, I knew I could hold him off. He was going to have to make the move down low. I knew I could hold him off. I held Rich off with older tires for a couple laps. I knew the closer Derek got, the more his car would push because of the aero. The closer he got to my car, the more his nose would just push up the track. And I would have had a little bit bigger of a lead, but I screwed up out of turn 4 with about 12 to go. And I went from a 2-second lead to a 1-second lead. So my car was pretty good. It was definitely a better short run car than long run, but I thought I was able to hold Derek off if he got beside me. It was gonna be very interesting though. It was very cool. I was smiling the whole time.
Let's talk some statistics now. You have 3 wins in this series dating back to, of course, last season. You're one of only 6 drivers to have won more than 3 races in this series, or 3 or more races, and you're the 3rd driver in series history to go back-to-back in winning races. Does it establish yourself now as a true contender for this championship here this season?
Oh, I've had such a disappointing first half of this season. Like I told you guys last week and on your radio show, around Richmond, I felt like the momentum was changing. I was starting to really run strong. And last week at Pocono, I had a really good car. This week, again, a really good car. I'm really glad I'm doing it clean. I really don't think I've made too many enemies, if any, and that's always important. If anything, I'm established as somebody everybody can trust racing around, and that's important to me. And 2 of my wins so far in the series are with TaxSlayer.com, so hopefully I get even more. I hope. I know Ray and Thomas both had somewhat bad runs compared to how they've been doing, so if I keep on racking up wins, it's going to be good.
Can we rack up another win here in 2 weeks' time? Can you become the first driver in series history to win 3 back-to-back races? Can you do it at New Hampshire?
Well, being a racer, every week I'm just looking to get the pole, lead out every lap, and win the race. So, yeah, sure I can. I just have to keep bringing good cars and, keep working with people. Derek and I ran some practice laps last night on iRacing's practice servers, and we knew then that he had the stronger car, but I was able to make some changes according to that run in order to help me. So I mean, he's one of my teammates, and as long as we all keep working together, we're gonna definitely all be in contention to get more wins. Hopefully, it's me.
And those two drivers look good up there here this evening. Steve, before we let you go, we know you mentioned Tax Slayer already. Who else makes it happen for this team?
Well, I got to thank JD Laird for, painting this car. Hopefully, it looks good on, your guys' show, PSR TV. Got to thank iRacing. You guys, of course. Like I said, JD, TaxSlayer.com. I know it's not really tax season, but you guys can still support me and support iRacing just by visiting the website when we do broadcasts. I know it sounds weird, but they can track how many viewers they get, and if they see that website getting hits while this race is going on, that's saying something. So that helps out iRacing a ton. I got to thank all those guys that I worked with this week, and they know who they are. And I got to thank Dale Jr. because he hooked me up with a power supply, so I definitely got to thank him personally.
And there we go, Steve Sheehan, back-to-back winner in the 2011 NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. And Daryl, he leaves this evening unofficially in 11th place in the points standings. I believe you have caught up with our second-place finisher.
Indeed, we have. We've caught up with Derek Wood. Derek, obviously, you would love to have seen that thing finish under green flag conditions. You were starting to track down Steve Sheehan. You were coming, and you were coming quick.
Yeah, I had a good car tonight. First of all, I got to give a huge apology to John Gorlinski and the other drivers that were caught up in that wreck. That was just my mistake. I got in the corner too hard trying to dive low on entry and just mistimed it, ran over his left rear. I wasn't too happy about that, and I know Dumpy's not, or John Gorlinski's not too happy about that either. But just an honest mistake. And yeah, the car was really good on the long run. I couldn't go as hard as Steve could early on in the runs, but I was more consistent after 10, 15 laps. And yeah, I'd like to see that finish under green. I don't really think I could have got him just because the arrow push when you get to like 3/10 behind somebody is ridiculous. But it would have been interesting. Maybe I could have forced him into a mistake.
Perhaps could have forced a mistake. If you had it to do all over again, what would you have done setup-wise a little bit different, maybe knowing that you would have had a shorter run at the end of this race?
I would have set it up a little bit looser. But the change I needed to make, I couldn't make on pit road, so I just stuck with what I had because my car was okay on the short run relative to pretty much everybody else. It's just Steve had his car set up to where he could run that extra tenth and a half faster at the start, and because he got off of pit road first, that set up perfectly for him. So I don't think I would have really done anything different because I think if I had been in the lead and he'd have been behind me, I think I'd have been able to hold him off. So it was just kind of the way it worked out.
Talk a little bit about how loose that low side was as compared to the high side. It looked like anytime somebody got down to the inside, the car got real loose on them.
Yeah, it was so hard to pass because of that. The outside is just able to hold the momentum so well. There's a lot better traction up in that kind of above that second seam, almost the third lane really, and you can really make a run entering the corner down low, but it's just so hard to make it. Even if you do it right and you get the car hooked up, you just don't carry the speed off the corner. And there was a restart where I got under Richard Towler on the going into one, and I was able to like maintain with him down the backstretch, and we got to 3 and 4, and I drove it as hard as I could on the bottom, and it didn't matter. He was still half a car length in front of me coming off 4 with momentum. So it was almost impossible. You really had to have 15, 20 laps into the run and have a better car than somebody to pass him.
Before we let you go, Derek, let's hear about friends, teammates, sponsors. Who helps make it happen for you, bud?
Yeah, I got to thank Junior Motorsports and Whiskey River for sticking with me this season. It's been it's been a rough season so far, but I'm happy to get this finish, get their face on TV some more. Got to thank JD Laird, JDR Graphics for painting my car. I think it looks awesome, and all my buddies at the drill aisle.
There you go. That's Derek Wood. Comes home in the second position. Second place runner-up. Not a bad spot and a solid points night. We're going to pitch it back to Tim Terry, who was caught up with third position, Richard Towler. Tim?
Richard Towler coming home in third, leading 15 laps here this evening. Brand new paint scheme. Pretty solid night overall.
Yeah, it was great to get, another top 5 for the R&B Transport, car. It was really quick tonight. And I was basically thanks to Derek because he helped me with the setup this week and put together a really good qualifying lap and some good race pace. But congrats to Steve for coming first. He really drove the wheels off that thing. It was quite impressive coming out with 10-4 every lap, like an inch off the wall.
Fantastic running here in close quarter racing. You and Steve had some battles at the start of the race as well. Talk us through those battles at the early portion of this race.
Yeah, I took like a gamble pitting after a fairly short run, and Steve stayed out, and so I had fresher tyres, but it was still really difficult to pass. But we had some really good moments, like just coming out of 10-2, really close, and then I finally got far enough alongside down the back straight, and I just drove that thing down to 10-3 as hard as I've ever drove it to try and get the lead, and that worked out.
Talked about the second half of the season turning around for some drivers. You continue to pick up steam and pick up momentum, up to 18th now in the point standings unofficially. You talked about 5 races ago or so that the top 25 would be the goal. Now that you're safely in that top 25 at this point, have about a 20-point buffer room in between that 25th place position. What are the goals now? Do you set yourself up to a top 10 finish, or do you still have that top 25 lingering in the back of your mind?
I've always got the top 25 kind of in my mind because that's just so important for next year. But at the same time, as I've shown, like I'm not going to back out. I'm going to go for it in every single race to try and win. So there'll be some pretty exciting races, I'm sure.
New Hampshire Motor Speedway in 2 weeks, a different beast compared to what we raced tonight here at Michigan. What do you have for New Hampshire in 2 weeks' time?
Hopefully not a field mount, because I killed the field last year in that race. So I need to stay away from the apron and behave myself for that race. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's always been one of my stronger tracks, because it's a short track, and I've always kind of liked those tracks. So hopefully I can not do anything stupid and see what happens.
And it could be the first victory of 2011 in this NASCAR iRacing Series World Championship for RT. Before we let you go, Richard, it's shout-out time. Anybody out there you want to say hello to or any final thoughts? The mic is all yours.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank my friends and R&B Transport Refinishing for coming on board. The car looks really good, so hopefully the rest of the season keeps improving and we'll keep moving up a little bit. We've got 4th, we've got 3rd. Let's go for a 2nd and a 1st.
There we go. There's driver 08, Richard Towler, coming home in position number 3. I'm going to kick it over to the co-owners of Hot Lap Radio, Daryl Morley and Josh Parker.
Thank you very much, Tim. We'll see if we can't get Josh Parker here as we await the arrival of Josh Parker. Josh Parker, obviously a solid run to say the least on a racetrack and a race car combination that everybody seemed to struggle with a little bit. Take us through the preparation for Michigan International Speedway and the COT, a combination that a lot of you struggled with here tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't put a lot of time into it this race. When I first started, I loaded up my Darlington setup because I heard it was loose from reading the forums, and I ran a race, Class A race last week with it, with a couple of changes, tire pressures, camber, and it felt all right. But other than that, I really have to give a huge thanks to Derek and Steve and Rich and everyone who could put time and help me out with the setup this week. I mean, they sent me something yesterday where I can work off of and just a little adjustment here and there, and it was good. I couldn't get through turn 1 at all, but turn 3 was really good. Other than that, it was a pretty difficult track. I'm kind of glad to get out of there.
Well, you mentioned getting out of there, moving ahead, going forward 2 weeks. You go to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, kind of a sort of a home track for you. I don't know if you would list New Hampshire or Dover as your home track, but sort of a home track for you being a New England guy. What's the prospects looking like for New Hampshire?
My prospects is if we have to drive it anywhere like we did last year, hopefully Richard Taro hits on something early. Other than that, I'm screwed.
So you're thinking you may struggle at the flat mile, huh?
I mean, back in the other sims, it was my wheelhouse. But this is iRacing. There you go.
So you're saying you may struggle a little bit unless you can find something that you might hit on, or Richard Towler might hit on, or
yeah, unless I'm entering the Olympics for figure skating, I probably won't do well.
So struggling might be an understatement for you in 2 weeks. Although something tells me you might be kind of playing both sides of the coin just a little bit here, Josh.
Well, see, if I'm running up front, it makes it a nice underdog story. That way, everyone's like, "Oh wow, look at him."
Yeah, look at Josh Parker. He wasn't supposed to be up here. Look at this. Wow, he's running up in second place. What an amazing run for Josh Parker.
The only thing I need to watch out for is not being behind Derek on restarts. If he's behind me, we're okay. Last year we had a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, I think I remember the difficulties we had last year. Obviously, working hard is an understatement to say the least. Just to get into this series, you've got to work hard. To stay in this series, you've got to work hard. You're one of those drivers that's been a mainstay in this series and looks like you're going to continue to be a mainstay in this series. To talk a little bit, we've asked you about this before, but talk a little bit about the aura that surrounds this series. I mean, this is the cream of the crop, the be-all, end-all of sim racing, isn't it?
It is, and the thing that people don't know is what iRacing has done is gathered these humongous names of groups and corporations to actually follow this, like NASCAR, obviously being one of them, Grand Am now. So the hype leading up to this series, especially the first year, was just insane. Me winning the Pro Series, obviously they went as me being the favorite to win, and the pressure that hold to try to run up front all the time just for being the favorite. Like Rich has probably had to go through this year. I mean, you guys all expecting to run up front. Each and every broadcast, everyone's looking to find where Rich is. So, I mean, the surrounding elements of the series is insane, but actually being inside the series is also insane. I mean, just look at qualifying. The top 10 to 15 drivers are all capable of winning a race, even top 20. I mean, everyone in the field besides John Prather is definitely capable of winning a race.
A little dig at John Prather, and you got to love that. I don't know if John Prather's going to love that too much, though.
That's all I got to say.
Now, being John Prather's teammate, I will say that he did lead one more lap than Josh
He did.
tonight.
He did. All right, back to my interview.
Josh, we love you, buddy, but if we let this continue, we'll be on the air all night long, and I don't know that we have the funds to be on the air all night long. Josh, before we let you go, let's hear about your friends, your teammates, sponsors, who helps make it happen, and this has been a pretty darn good night for the team.
Oh yeah, I mean JRM, Junior Motorsports, obviously, Spar for Men, Degree for Men, Tax Layer, Whiskey River. The Spin Master, now with Chris Main, now on the team. Wrangler, thank all them. Dude, it's big thanks to everyone at Drill Out. I mean, they don't even know how much they helped me out this week for being this. And I just want to give a shout out to Tim Terry. Half of Canada is now dead because the Bruins have won the cup. So, sorry about that.
The always entertaining Josh Parker. And Josh, have some more top fives this season, buddy. We love talking to you here on PSR TV, would you?
I'll try. Let's see if I can win the 10 grand.
If you win the 10 grand, I will come to Cranston, Rhode Island, and I will help you spend it. How's that?
That's good.
There you go. That's Josh Parker. And Tim, always entertaining, always fun. And he gets to put you through the Dirty Dozen very soon on Hot Lap Radio. you've got to be shaking in your boots by now.
After that, I'm very well shaking in my boots, and I'm sure Brian Schoenberger is somewhere out there hopping off the wall for next week's Hot Lap Radio as well, because I heard he gets to make a guest appearance as well. Fantastic racing we saw here this evening at Michigan. I can't wait for 2 weeks at New Hampshire. It's going to be exciting. Kevin King, you had the opportunity to watch the race in the booth with us. What did you think of 100 laps here at Michigan?
I thought it was pretty much what I thought it would be. All the fast guys that are normally up there were out there proving why they're the fast guys. It's unfortunate to see some of those guys get taken out, but the cream does rise to the top eventually, and it's really no different each week. So it was nice to see them race. They had some really good runs. I kind of expect a little bit more action in the middle of the pack, just because I know how hard that track is to drive. But everyone did a really good job.
Well, Kevin, what do we look forward to in 2 weeks at New Hampshire? What's the what do you expect in 2 weeks at New Hampshire?
New Hampshire is a little bit different than the other tracks that I've always found. You can kind of run the high line a little bit. You can kind of run it like in 2003 and use the apron a tad. But for the most part, it's just going to be how loose can you make your car through the entire corner. I don't think you'll see shifting, but you might. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really been there. But it's going to be really hard to pass, of course, especially when you get 43 really fast guys in there. So qualifying is going to be incredibly important, and for sure you'll see the same top guys up front. So it should be a good race.
Should be a great race, and we are looking forward to having you all join us. Tim Terry, closing thoughts as we get ready for New Hampshire here on PSR TV.
We saw a lot of comers. We saw a lot of goers here this evening, Daryl, and I believe we're going to see it as we go through this second half of the season. Unofficially, it's Thomas Hazard up by 7 points over Ray Alfala, 30 points back to Brad Wright, Tyler Hudson, Schoenberg, your top five. The point standings, the vice, what is the point standings, continues to tighten, and there's only 55 points between your top six if you include Josh Parker in that mix as well. This is far from over, and I think we're going to get ready to see that vice tighten just a little bit more after we leave New Hampshire in 2 weeks' time. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. It should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it and hoping you all join us as well. On behalf of Tim Terry and Kevin King and all of us here at PSR TV, I'm Daryl Morley. Thanking you so much for tuning in and reminding you, keep it shiny side up and rubber side down, and always, always, always keep that hammer down. We'll see you next time right here on PSR TV.